Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for Stories of Transgender Resilience. Today is a day to remember those that we've lost to violence, but it's also a time to remember the strength and resilience of our trans community. So today we're going to be sharing some of those stories and some of the more positive things. Hi, Victoria. So my name is Ian Giles. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the executive director of Gender Bands. Gender Bands is an international nonprofit that helps trans people pay for their transitions. We do that through many ways, including giving out surgery and HRT grants and free binders and offering online support programs. We also put on sorry, getting distracted by the comments. We also put on Utah's only Utah Trans Pride Festival, and it is one of only 3 Trans Pride festivals in the country. Right now, if you need, or somebody you know needs top surgery or needs help paying for their hormone treatments, you can apply to a Gender Bands grant. Go to genderbands.org/grants. I believe they're going to put that on the screen somewhere. There we go. It is open to everybody on the trans spectrum, so that's binary, trans, non-binary, agender, bigender, all that stuff. This year we also have grants in Spanish as well as in English. And if we scroll down the page, you'll see we've got a frequently asked questions part, and we have 6 different grants. Those are all of our past grant people. Our basic requirements, you have to be 18. You can be in Canada, US, or Mexico. We have a grant specifically for people of color. We have HRT grants, all these wonderful grants. So if you or somebody you know needs help, you have until December 31st to apply. Thank you very much for that. Now, I am going to read a story that was submitted to us by a local trans woman of her story of resilience. For most of my life, I denied my own trans experience in an effort to be more appealing to my parents and their religion. I knew the LDS Church has doctrine against wanting to be a different gender and same-sex marriage, so I completely repressed those feelings. However, I really sucked at repressing those feelings. I would cry for every night for weeks. I would stand in front of the mirror and try to force my shoulders closer together or give myself boobs or anything else. This mode of thought switched out with another where I tried to pray to God to purify me and even miracle my body into a female body. My parents didn't help. They have a history of abusing me, for which I blamed myself for the longest time. When they first found out that I was questioning, it was when they discovered the surgeries I had looked up in the web history. They immediately called it pornography and went through several weeks of yelling at me and telling me how I need to be respectful of women's bodies more than that, and how I shouldn't let those thoughts into my head. They instilled a sense that any and all thoughts regarding me being in the wrong body was sexist and inappropriate. My mind built on this by assuming that those thoughts were purely sexual in nature and would turn me into a rapist if I didn't fight against them. Several years of therapy finally made me realize that those thoughts weren't sexual at all. I feel better now. I have told my parents that I am cutting myself off from their family. I chose a name that actually fits me. I am extremely blessed to have consistent therapy appointments and doctor appointments. I still deal with external and internal transphobia through doubts about what if my transness is just a product of my abuse, or what if it's all sexual and nothing more. I have received harassment online that try to further these doubts, but I've worked past them. I've explored those feelings over a long period of time and established that they don't have any validity. I am now super happy exploring myself. I've only been able to transition for a few months now, but I'm so excited for the future. New names and new family, new friends and new family await. Plus, about that wanting to be a girl, I am a girl. I always was a girl. Parents, culture, and religion try their best to tell me that I'm not and hurt me in the process. But that doesn't change the fact that I am and always was a girl. Thank you for sharing that story with us today and for allowing me the opportunity to share your story with everybody else. Continuing with stories of strong trans women, I get to tell you guys a little bit about Miss Major Griffin Gracie. Miss Major was at Utah Trans Pride this year. She graciously gave us some of her time, and it was a huge honor for myself. Being who she is, it was amazing. So I'm glad that I get to share a little bit now about her and what she has done with and for the trans community. A veteran of the infamous Stonewall riots, former sex worker, and a survivor of Attica State Prison, transgender elder and activist Miss Major has fought for over 40 years to create visibility and equality for trans women of color. Miss Major has built a global legacy of activism that is rooted in her own experiences and will continue to pave the way for transgender women of color, particularly those who have survived incarceration and police brutality. Miss Major is fiercely committed to justice, which shows through her work as an HIV/AIDS treatment advocate and her previous leadership of the Transgender, Gender Variant, Intersex Justice Project. Though Hollywood and most of modern media focuses on the gay white male perspective, Miss Major and her work reminds us that transgender and gender nonconforming individuals were and will continue to be at the forefront of activism. And I just want to personally thank Miss Major and all of those who have come before me for fighting for our community. Thank you, because I know that I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for you and people like you. So thank you very much. I'm just going to give you a very short thing about my story. I did not realize I was trans until later in life. And about 5-6 years ago, I finally realized it and have been able to transition. And I cannot explain the amount of positivity and goodness that has come from that. And I know that I wouldn't be able to be where I am today if it wasn't for those like Miss Major who fought for us, and for my amazing community here, my chosen family. You all are wonderful, and I wish that more people had the support. I wish that we didn't have to have a whole day talking about all of those that we've lost needlessly. I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to transition and to work within the trans community. And I thank you all for giving me that opportunity to help you. We have many, many more stories to hear about today. Next, we will be hearing from Tay, who is the president of Provo Pride, and I will let them continue on. Thank you, Tay, for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for sharing your story with us. All right. So I think a lot of you probably know who I am. Sorry for the crappy video. My phone is what we got right now. So I am the president of Provo Pride. I was working part-time at Encircle. I've actually just stepped down from that position. I am going to be volunteering at Encircle. So if any of you are thinking, oh no, you'll still see me every Tuesday, I'll be there. So don't push the panic button just yet. If we can make it to, November 20th in 2020, everything's going to be fine. I use he, she, they. I am non-binary, gender fluid. Um, I kind of really doubted that about myself for a while. I don't know. I just kind of felt like if I'm fluid, how can I really claim to be a certain identity? It was just hard for me to grow into that. And now I'm super comfortable with who I am. Um, and well, let me tell some of my story since I'm already here telling it. So, I didn't really start coming out to people as non-binary until last September. So it's been just over a year. I mean, I mentioned it to one or two people before that, but not in a real sense until last September. I told my drag mother, my drag sister, some people from my chosen family. And then from there, I told the rest of my family back in North Carolina, and then I told, um, my the Divine Sister Misters, who are mostly my children, some siblings, and it's just grown out from there. And one thing that has been great, 2020 has been super weird, but one thing that made coming out this year easy is I could just put pronouns on screen. We've been on screen so much, and I have not once had people be squinting at my pronouns and asking me, what's going on with that? They just accept it. So that actually wound up being a sort of a blessing in disguise of this weird time that we're having where everything is distanced and online. And Circle is open. So there's drop-in hours for youth and young adults on weekdays except for Friday from 3 to 7. So, and there's also Friendship Circle Wednesdays for youth, Friendship Circle Thursdays for young adults in person at the house. So feel free, random faith, to go take part in that. And there's also today a community-wide event. You can go pick up a gift basket focused on gratitude. I think they're letting people write out some things they're grateful for. So go swing by Encircle. All three houses. So no matter where you are in Utah, you should be able to go participate in that if that's something you're interested in. Let's see. Told my story. Okay, so I wanted to share probably most of us have heard about this, but in this recent election cycle, there's obviously the big stories, but there's also some really great victories that were won by community members. And I am just going to read this entire article. Forgive me for reading the whole thing, but the whole thing is just such great news. So I want to share it with you. So let me bring this up real quick. And then, all right. Hey, shout out to our gender fluid people. All right, so election results from November, earlier this month. So I'm just going to read this story. This is from ABC News. 2020 election brought notable firsts for LGBTQ candidates. As the country awaits answers on the 2020 presidential race, voters paved new paths for LGBTQ plus candidates who made historic firsts across all levels of American government. Delaware elects first openly transgender state senator. Sarah McBride, age 30, won a seat in the Delaware State Senate Tuesday night. And woo, y'all, I was not expecting it to hit like that. And made history as the first openly transgender state senator in the nation. When she is sworn in, McBride will become the nation's highest-ranking openly transgender elected official. Woo! Holy Lord, y'all. I should go to therapy. Anyway, I hope tonight shows an LGBTQ kid that our democracy is big enough for them too, McBride tweeted after her win. Tennessee General Assembly gains 2 openly LGBTQ politicians. Tory Harris and Eddie Manis, though on different sides of the political aisle, found common ground as they made history with wins to serve as the first openly LGBTQ politicians in the Tennessee state legislature. There's Tory Harris. Love this suit. And this is the other one. Tennessee had been just one of 5 states that previously never elected openly LGBTQ candidates as state representatives. Harris, a Democrat, will represent Memphis, and Manis, a Republican, will represent Knoxville. Vermont legislature adds first openly transgender member. Taylor Small, age 36, added her name to a list of notable LGBTQ victories on Tuesday, winning a seat in the Vermont House of Representatives. The progressive representative-elect for the district of Winooski and Burlington took to Twitter to celebrate the historic seat, 5th trans legislator in the nation. Georgia elects first openly LGBTQ state senator. Kim Jackson, an out lesbian, became Georgia's first openly LGBTQ representative in the state's history. Jackson's victory also adds her name to a list of just 3 other openly LGBTQ+ Black female senators in the U.S. Georgia re-elects first openly gay representative. Sam Park, who became the first openly gay man elected to the Georgia state legislature 4 years ago, was re-elected in the 101st district. Thank you, Georgia House District 101, for your vote. I'm honored to have earned your trust and support. I look forward to serving for 2 more years and continuing to fight, expand access to health care for all, lifting up working families, and protecting our democracy. The Asian American LGBTQ+ Democrat is currently one of only 2 Asian American state representatives in the U.S., along with Evan Lowe of California. New York elects 2 openly LGBTQ Black members of Congress. Richie Torres and Mondaire Jones, 2 openly gay Black Democratic representatives, made history Tuesday night. Torres, who won his House race for the 15th Congressional District in the South Bronx, became the first queer Afro-Latinx elected official to serve in Congress. Thank you. Tonight we made history. It is the honor of a lifetime to represent the essential borough of the Bronx. Mondaire, who adds his name to a running list of first openly LGBTQ Black congresspeople from any state, said on Twitter Wednesday morning that he was humbled and grateful for the community that just sent an openly gay Black guy who grew up in Section 8 housing and food stamps to Congress. Kansas elects first openly transgender lawmaker. Stephanie Byers, a retired Wichita teacher, won in Kansas on Tuesday, another notable victory for the LGBTQ community. The newest state legislature is the first openly transgender lawmaker in the red state, which ABC News projected as a win for President Donald Trump. That's the end of that. All right, y'all. Woo! Woo! I did not expect that to hit me that way, but here we are. I wasn't able to see the comments while I was doing that, so let me catch up just a little bit. Okay, I am just gonna remove you right from the stream, Miss Dorothy. Goodbye. All right. Yes, this really is powerful. To me, I like to recognize that politics isn't everything. There are different avenues for change and different ways to get things done that we need done. Oh, I might have had my microphone hidden a little bit, sorry. But yes, it's very powerful. Great victories this election cycle. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it hit me. It hit me in the feels. And John Gibbons. Yes, great news. So I wanted to share one other thing while I'm with you. Sorry if any of you saw that comment. I didn't get to it quickly enough. Someone who doesn't like the fact that I'm wearing makeup. So to that, I would like to say off is the direction in which I would like you to fill in the blank. Yes, we're sending her plenty of positive energy. That is a great way to put this. Y'all, if you want to wear makeup, wear makeup. The end. So I just want to share an event that is being put on tonight it's being led by the Transgender Education Advocates of Utah and Project Rainbow, and that's gotten support from Equality Utah, from the Utah Pride Center, lots of other orgs. So just gonna share the screen of this real quick. So it traditionally on the Transgender Day of Remembrance, there are vigils where people read names of those whose lives were lost. And oh, I have my chat open. So if you want to attend a traditional remembrance type vigil, we would encourage you to come to this event. Let me put, there's a link for it. Now this is going to be maybe too hard to just click on. You can't click on a banner, but it's, if you search on Facebook, Transgender Day of Remembrance, and you'll see all these orgs that are on here, Project Rainbow, TEA, Transgender Education Advocates. So search for that one on Facebook if you want to attend that tonight at 6 p.m. And to be clear, they are focusing more on the remembrance aspect. So it will be a little bit heavier, but necessary. I think that it is a really great thing to do to pay respect to those folks. So, all right, I am going to bring on, I think the next person is Jessie. Yeah, so our next presenter is Jessie Hensley. Let's welcome them. There we go. Hi, Jessie.
Hey.
How are you?
I am good.
All right. Are you ready to take it away?
Yeah, well, I mean, as ready as I'll ever be.
All right. I'm going to pop off then. Thanks, Jessie.
Thanks, Tay. Hey, everyone. Ooh, is my camera really poor quality? Because it's not usually. Okay, well, my name is Jessie. My pronouns are they, them. I'm so glad that we have people. Thanks, Chase. I'm so glad that there's people watching this. Super exciting. I have the chat for the YouTube stream pulled up on my phone, which is fun. So like, I might check this occasionally if anyone posts in there. Another very nice comment. So yeah, if you want to post stuff in the like YouTube chat too, I might see it on there. Or Tay's also putting comments on the screen, which I can read, which is awesome. But I'm hoping to try and be interactive because that'll be more fun. So a little bit about me. I am a social work student at UVU, and I'm doing my internship for the social work program at UVU LGBT Student Services. I identify as several queer identities, including non-binary, transgender, and gender fluid. And I first want to talk about Sylvia Rivera. So I first wanted to just say again, and I think Ian said this as well, but I want to really emphasize this, that it's important to recognize that overall trans people of color have done the most work for queer rights. And still today, it is people of color, especially Black trans femmes, who do the most work for queer rights. And Sylvia Rivera was a person of color, so we wanted to highlight today some stories of transgender figures who are people of color. So Sylvia Rivera was a Latina gay rights activist. Oops, hold on. Sorry, I just remembered that I needed to do something on my phone. Sorry. So Sylvia Rivera was a Latina gay rights activist who was born in 1951 in New York. She was of Puerto Rican and Venezuelan descent and identified as a drag queen before the word transgender was coined. Rivera was kicked out of her home for wearing makeup when she was 10 years old and became homeless. In 1970, Rivera, along with Marsha P. Johnson, founded STAR, which was an acronym for Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries. Rivera's activism with STAR included providing shelter to queer homeless youth and advocating for non-discrimination laws. Rivera gave a famous speech in 1973 at a Christopher Street Liberation Day rally where she called out cisgender white gay men for being oppressive to transgender people of lower social status. She also brought to their attention the work that trans people do for the gay rights movement. Rivera is recognized today for her years of activism as she brought forth much change for queer folks across the country. So I'm just gonna pause there for a moment because I want to check and see if there's any new chats in here. No new chats. So again, if anyone in the YouTube chat wants to post comments there or on the Facebook stream, I'm hoping to interact with y'all. So go ahead and make any comments, or even if you want to ask me any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Awesome. Thank you. So next I want to talk about my great-great-grandma, Grandma Frank O'Reilly. So I'm going to go over to my notes now so I won't see the comments popping up on the stream during this time because I'm going to be in another tab. But so my great-great-grandma, Frank O'Reilly, she was my grandpa's dad's mom, and she was transgender. I don't know much about her, but what I do know is that she was a resilient trans woman. She faced a lot of discrimination for wearing feminine clothing. Even her wife did not approve of it and often threatened to report her for dressing that way inside their home. Despite this, my great-great-grandma Frank insisted on living true to her feelings as a woman and continued dressing in feminine clothing for the rest of her life. So she is super awesome, and I'm grateful that I have such an amazing person in my ancestry. Queerness actually runs in my biological family. I've created a family tree that goes back 6 generations, and there are people who were out as queer that I know of in 4 of those generations. So that's like really amazing, and it's special to me to know that that I am living in generations of queerness. And I'm going to pop back over to the stream. So Victoria says, what would you say has helped you the most in your journey? Thank you, Victoria. Thanks for the question. What has helped me most in my journey? I would have to say the support from other queer people. Support in general is always very useful and helpful, but there's just something special to me when it comes from other people who are queer. I appreciate allies as well, but when I get together with other people who are queer, I feel like they understand me the best, and having support in that community with them is what has been the most help for me. Nice comment from John. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. To go off of your comment, John, about how awesome it is to have queerness in my legacy, the surprising thing is that I didn't even know that I had queer ancestors until after I came out as trans almost 5 years ago. And it was at that time that my aunt told me, "Oh, hey, your great great grandma was transgender." And it was this thing that was known about in the family. I ended up finding out, but it was just very hushed. And then I started finding out about more queer people in my family. And it's just a very conservative family. In each generation of queerness, those of us who are queer have been shunned by the rest of our family. And so it was a very hushed thing, like no one talked about it. But once I came out, I started finding out there was these other queer people too that in my family that nobody told me about. So it's kind of amazing when you start doing some digging around and people are willing to start talking about things, to find out that there were a lot more queer people back then, just that it was so hidden. Let's see. I think I'm going to talk now about I kind of wrote a little short story about like my own personal story of resilience. So I think I'm just kind of read that. Let's see. Okay. So I was assigned female at birth, but I've always felt that my gender is different. Being taught that there are only two genders, male and female, I realized when I was 5 years old that I did not feel like I was female, so I figured that I must mean I was male. Now I recognize that there are several genders, not just two, but when I was 5, that's all I had heard about. And so at that age, I told my friends that I was a boy. My parents were very homophobic and transphobic and told me that it was bad to be queer. And at first, I believed them, and I developed a lot of internalized transphobia. And I struggled a lot throughout my life because of that. I tried for years to stop being trans, but it was a very strong feeling inside me that my gender was different, and I just couldn't get rid of that. It was just a true part of who I was. And so almost 5 years ago, I finally was able to accept myself for being transgender, and I came out as trans non-binary. Since then, I've had the privilege of receiving hormone replacement therapy and top surgery to help me feel empowered in my gender identity. And I am so grateful that I was able to get those to medically transition. It's made a huge impact positively on my mental health, being able to get the top surgery especially. And I'm so grateful that I've had the privilege of being able to get that. I've also had the privilege of being one of the first people in Utah to get my legal documentation to reflect a non-binary gender identity. And I'm so grateful of that too. So grateful. I know that not everyone has access to these things. Not all trans people do. So now on my driver license, the gender marker that had previously been an F and an M is now an X for non-binary. And for my birth certificate for gender, it says the word non-binary on my birth certificate, which just when I got those new documents in the mail, I was crying tears of joy. I was so happy to just be affirmed through just those documents. And it's not the greatest thing, it doesn't mean everything's all fine now, but I was just so happy to have those items that helped me feel validated in my gender identity and just as a human being. Facing a transphobic society throughout my life has been really hard, but I am here to show you that being transgender is beautiful, and I'm openly out and proud of my identity. There are always ups and downs, but I am succeeding in life as a trans person, and I am on track to graduating this spring with a Bachelor of Social Work degree. So that is about all that I had prepared, but I would love to pause for a few more seconds to see if anyone has any more questions or comments, because I really love interacting. Thanks, Chase. Thank you, Victoria. Okay, I guess that we'll go on to Justin now.
Hey, Jessie. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I've heard your story before, but it's always so awesome to hear it again. And I'm so happy about the gender markers too.
Yes. Thanks, Justin.
So I am seeing one more question. As a non-trans person, how do I help advocate? I wonder if you and I could answer this together. So I'm just like thinking, as a non-trans person, I think it's really important to understand what spaces are for us and what spaces aren't for us. I think just understanding and being like super kind and super understanding to trans folks and to folks who are learning about their own gender identity. Because I think the trans umbrella can be a really big umbrella, and people navigating that and where they fall on that can be really tough. So that would be my first suggestion on how, as a non-trans person, to help advocate.
I would say, gosh, there's so many things. First off the top of my head is to really take our word for it when we speak about our own personal experiences. Sometimes when I am sharing about my personal experiences about being transgender to people who are cisgender, sometimes I get kind of like really kind of reactions, and it's like, okay, like, do you really think I would make this up or whatever? It's like, and to me, like, transgender things is just so normal. I have tons of trans friends as well, and this is my life, but it's just when people think that it is just too strange to be true or something, it's just it just makes me feel like I'm invisible, or you don't really see me. So that was just the first thing that came to my mind, is just believe us when we're speaking about our own experiences. And that is a way that you can support us, as well as another thing is advocating, and especially through uplifting our voices. If you can take things that transgender people say and reflect them to other people to help educate others, that's another good thing.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I was thinking of just as you were talking, I know the holidays are coming up, Thanksgiving is coming up. A lot of folks are going to be, either Zooming with their families or however they're doing it. And I think a really important thing that cis folks can do is just to stand up or to say something when something transphobic gets said. And it can be as simple as saying, I think that's transphobic, or something like that. Or if someone's making a joke at the expense of a trans person, to say, can you explain that joke to me? Kind of make them walk into that uncomfortability and see what they're actually saying. So yeah, I think I think those are great ways. But I realized I never introduced myself. Jessie, do you have anything else to say about this question, though?
I mean, I could go on, but
yeah, very true.
I don't know.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and introduce myself then. I'm Justin, as you can see on the screen here. I use they, them, and he, him pronouns. And I work with 2 different organizations. I work with UVU's TRIO EOC, as well as UVU's LGBT Student Services. And so I just want to talk a little bit about those organizations because I really love both of them. I really love TRIO because it helps me to reach some of the most marginalized folks in our communities as far as income, wealth, and I really love working at LGBT Student Services because I get to do things like this, and I get to meet with my queer family pretty much daily. And I think that community is really, really important to me. I just wanted to let y'all know if there are any resources that you are having trouble accessing, please email us. It's lgbt@uvu.edu is our email. And you can always email us. We answer usually on weekdays, of course, but the email is always ready for you to email, and I'm always looking at that inbox. But I want to talk just a little bit about a historical queer figure, Marsha P. Johnson. She was an activist. She was one of the original founders of STAR that Jessie talked about, Street Trans Action Revolutionaries. And she worked as a sex worker so that she could support queer kids and other friends of hers. She actually took in kids off the street into her own home. And she fed them, she made sure they were safe. And because of this, she was known as the mayor of Christopher Street because everyone knew her. Everyone knew Marsha. One of my favorite things about Marsha in my historical readings that I've done is that she performed in a group called the Cockettes, which is a reference to the Rockettes, if you don't know about them, but it was a drag group that they would go and perform in drag and sing Rockettes songs, but their band was called the Cockettes, which I just think is a really great example of how Marsha really just embodied joy in the face of incredible resistance. She was also an activist during the AIDS crisis, an activist with Sylvia Rivera during a lot of the first gay pride marches. And I just want to read a little story about Marsha that I was able to find. Both Johnson and Rivera put their lives on the line in order to financially support the Star House by doing street sex work at night. They also wanted to use the space to teach youth how to read and write during the day. STAR was significant in many ways. It became the first LGBTQ+ youth organization in North America, and it was the first that I know of trans women of color-led organization in the United States. Marsha P. Johnson was known for being an eccentric woman with great taste in fashion. Oftentimes she would wear really incredible hats. She was definitely known for hats and her jewelry as well. And she was really down to earth. The stories say that she was down to earth, but also fearless and bold. Some of the stories of the actions that she and Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera got into are just incredible and really great ways to exist and to agitate kind of as queer people. Despite her difficulties with mental illness, whenever she was asked what the P in her name stood for, usually by cops, she would say it stands for pay it no mind. And she would say the same thing when someone was asking about what her gender was or what she wanted to exist as. She just says, pay it no mind. It's her deal. We don't have to worry about it. And that really speaks to my experience because I don't super love labels on my own personal experience, but I really love the label queer. And I think Marsha P. Johnson was a big part of my story in becoming comfortable with myself as a queer person. So I love Marsha P. Johnson, and I think, like I said before, she embodied joy in the face of just a terrible world. And her work as a Black trans sex worker is incredible, and her legacy, it lives on in the rights we have today, and even in the words we use today. Marsha, as we see in the name of Street Trans Action Revolutionaries, was revolutionary. She was not interested in very slow things. She wanted her rights, and she wanted them today. And I admire that to this day. She also called out racism, transphobia, sexism that she saw in the LGBTQ+ community, and in a way that we can still use as an example today when we see racism, sexism, transphobia, etc. in the LGBTQ+ community. So I just want to share a little bit about my story. And although the world seems really dark at times, I find hope and I find resilience in my queer family. I think when I first moved to Utah, it was really difficult to find queer family, and even more so now during coronavirus. But LGBT Student Services was there for me. Provo Pride was there for me. I was able to talk with a lot of organizations. I remember my first Provo Pride where I was able to connect with so many organizations and so many people, and I have a picture of my first Pride, and I still can look at that picture and see all the people there and just know that I do have a queer family here in Utah. And my biggest hope is that other people can say the same, and that I can help with, other people finding that community. And I'm gonna cry too, but it's really true. Without my queer family, I don't know where I'd be. So, whew. How about that? Anyway, I just want to say to close out that to exist in this world that we exist in, this very tough world to exist in sometimes, is an act of resistance. And I'm so proud of so many people who I know, my family members, thanks, Emily, my family members, everyone who stands up for queer people and just knows us, and especially to our queer people who we know, and our queer people who are families with us. God bless y'all. And to refuse these negative stereotypes and to refuse these narratives, it's an act of power. It's an act of resistance. And I love y'all. I guess that's what I have to close out with, is just that I love y'all, and keep the resistance, keep the fight. We got this. And thank you to all the comments here. Apparently I'm gonna make everybody cry. But crying's okay. I just love all y'all so much. So that's pretty much all I have to say. But if anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer comments or anything like that. And again, God bless y'all.
I guess in that case, it's my turn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. So my name is Schetselaar. I use he, him pronouns. And I'm a UVU student. I am a family science major and with a minor in sociology. I can speak words, I promise. And I am also the president of Spectrum, which is our queer student alliance here on campus. We're a student-run club. We have events every single Monday night, except when we have breaks. And let me tell you, they have been a gigantic light in my life during coronavirus. I don't know what I would do without them. Sorry, my brain is now in really sappy, silly mode because listening to everyone's stories and listening to everyone's kind of resistance, is just so powerful to me, and I love hearing it. Um, and also, if you have any questions or comments for me, I am happy to take them. I promise I will get my words in here eventually. So I'm going to start off reading an excerpt from the LA Times about Sarah McBride, who is, if you heard earlier, the first openly transgender state senator in the country. She won her state senate race with more than 70% of the vote, which is amazing. So she says, "It is my hope that a young LGBTQ kid here in Delaware, or really anywhere in this country, can look at the results and know that our democracy is big enough for them too," McBride said as her victory was confirmed Tuesday night. McBride interned at the White House under President Obama, and in 2016 became the first openly transgender to give a speech at a major party convention. 2 other Democrats became the first openly transgender people to win seats in their state houses: Taylor Small in Vermont and Stephanie Byers in Kansas. Stephanie Byers, a retired high school band teacher, expressed hope that her victory would encourage other transgender people in conservative Kansas. "It helps those people who are transgender to reinforce that they are people who matter. They are people who are important, and they're people who can be successful in their lives," she told the Wichita Eagle before Tuesday's election. There were 4 other transgender lawmakers in state legislatures nationwide, according to Victory Fund. In Oklahoma, Marie Turner, a Democrat who is Black, Muslim, and identifies as non-binary, won a seat in the state house. "I have continuously lived a life where folks doubt my voice or the power that I have," Turner said. "I wouldn't have gotten far if I had let something like that debilitate me." So, just wonderful quotes from these beautiful trans people that we now have in our legislative systems, and boy, am I going to take them to heart forever, especially that, again, what Provo Pride just put in our chat. My hope that a young LGBTQ kid here anywhere in the country can look at the results and know that our democracy is big enough for them too, because our democracy is big enough for all of us. This state, this country, this world has always been big enough for all of us. Also, hello, Jeremy Bowden. It's good to see you in the chat. So as for my story, I don't know if I said this earlier, so I'll repeat myself if I didn't. I identify as a gender fluid transmasculine individual, which I understand is a mouthful. That's why I just go by Chase. And the way that I've always seen my gender is it's all over the place, and it's something that is more of an experience than just an identity. The way that I've currently been explaining it is it's like my gender is a hummingbird in this gigantic field of flowers, and each flower is a different gender experience. And I'm watching this hummingbird flit from flower to flower, just going berserk, and trying to interpret my gender from there. And it is such an experience that when I was younger and trying to figure myself out, I definitely relate to Jessie. I knew that I'm AFAB, and I knew that I was not a girl way early on. But I couldn't put it into words. And growing up here in Utah, I was definitely also given that narrative that I was born the gender that I was born as. There is no other way to be. And so I really tried to drill that F into my birth certificate into my brain, and it didn't work. Shockingly, I'm sure all of you wouldn't have guessed that would not have worked. Yes, thank you, Justin. It is an experience, isn't it? That is admittedly one of the things that I've grown to love about being transgender is we have an experience that no one else gets to have. Isn't that amazing? We are experiences, and I love it. But yes, when I realized in my middle teens, I was 14, that I wasn't a girl and this wasn't working, I tried to be a binary guy, and that didn't work either. And then I ran across, it was literally by fate, I saw the gender fluid flag on social media, and it was like everything just clicked. And since then, just my whole life has been changed for the better, been thrown on this tangent that is completely different. And it's been amazing, and I have always been so grateful that I came out, that I listened to who I was. And that I have this beautiful and wonderful community not only to relate to and not only to to be able to be a part of, but to be able to help them as well, that we can all come together and lift each other up. It's something that I think the transgender community has always done. And as Justin and Jessie said, we are living on the backs and the work of our Black transgender women that came before us. And we wouldn't be enjoying the life we do without them. And it is so important that we recognize them as well. So, yay, I was seeing in the chat so much gender fluid representation. Oh, I understand. That is another thing. I also relate to Tay in that when you are gender fluid, I feel like there is this barrier you have to get over of like, well, I was a woman the other day, but I'm a man now. So like, am I not really a man because I'm a woman now? And really, when it comes to the end of the day, I am going to quote Marsha P. Johnson here, pay it no mind. It's my business. And I am going to experience my gender the way I'm going to experience. Tay will experience their gender the way they're going to experience it. And even if they're different, that doesn't matter. That is another wonderful thing that is so unique about us, is that the way that we can be our genders is up to us. There is only one right way to be your gender, and that is the way that you are your gender, and that is beautiful. And resilience is a part of transness. Pay it no mind. It's my identity, my life, my queerness. Thank you, Justin. Resilience is a part of transness. By being trans, you are going to be resilient. I can talk about my story all day and how I can be resilient, but the truth of the matter is, I see resilience most in the people around me, in the beautiful transgender people that I get to work with in Spectrum Council. They have carried me. I would not be able to run my club without them. And quite frankly, I would not be doing nearly as well in my own social and mental life without them. I see it in all of the wonderful students that I get to work with, that I get to be around, who are also transgender. I see it in our trans folks of color who are reclaiming their cultural identities that were lost. I see it in every single transgender person I ever get to meet, where the world looks down on us and says, you can't be here, we don't have a place for you. And they look back and say, nope, I'm here now. And if you won't have a place for me, I will find my own place. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. The experiences that we get to have are chock full of resilience. And I mean, really, like, I can't say more than that. So if anyone has any questions as we're wrapping up, again, feel free to put them in the comments. We just wanted to thank everyone for coming, for signing on. I know it is so different this year because of coronavirus that we are doing this virtually. So we thank you for your patience. We thank you for staying on. And yes, thank you in various comments in Facebook. Yes, Ian, you will always have a place in this world. Always, always, always. So on Facebook and YouTube, looks like they have put in the chat the link to the stream for the Remembrance Vigil later tonight. That is at 6 p.m. And you can follow all of that by following that link. Yay, thank you. We just want to thank Gender Bands, Provo Pride, UVU LGBTQ, and Spectrum for putting this on, for coming together and working together. And once again, just lastly, thanking all of you for coming and supporting us. Thank you, and good evening.